You constantly give in under pressure, giving up when difficulties arise, instead of bouncing back stronger, letting obstacles destroy you emotionally, crumbling when things get tough, without the mental fortitude to deal with life's inevitable challenges, remaining fragile and weak, and unable to bounce back from adversity, because you never developed the psychological resilience that separates those who succeed from those who fail. This lack of resilience is systematically destroying your potential, ensuring that you give up at the first hurdle, destroying your confidence by repeatedly proving that you cannot cope with difficulties, destroying your opportunities by making you fragile when resilience is needed, destroying your growth by keeping you in comfortable, safe spaces, and destroying your future by ensuring that you remain weak and incapable when resilience is a prerequisite for everything worthwhile. Resilience is not trait you are born with, but capacity you build systematically. Not about never feeling pain, but about recovering from it quickly. And not mysterious quality, but result of specific practices anyone can implement. This audiobook teaches resilience mastery through 5 progressive steps that build unbreakable mental toughness. The psychology of resilience, showing how people bounce back from adversity. The neuroscience of stress adaptation, revealing how brain becomes stronger through challenge. The practices of deliberate resilience training. And the frameworks of anti-fragility that make you stronger from difficulty when fragility makes you weaker. Stop breaking under pressure and start building resilience systematically. Stop being fragile and start becoming unbreakable. Follow these 5 steps. Build capacity progressively, embrace adversity as training, execute with discipline daily, and develop resilience, making you stronger from challenges that weakness makes impossible to overcome. Beginning now. Chapter 1. Step 1. Accept that adversity is inevitable and stop avoiding difficulty. Accepting that adversity is inevitable and stopping avoidance of difficulty is foundational. First step, because denial and avoidance prevent resilience. Building. The acceptance principle demonstrates that life guarantees challenges and setbacks for everyone, without exception. That avoiding difficulty makes you weaker, not stronger. That accepting inevitability of adversity changes your relationship with it completely. That resilience cannot develop without exposure to difficulty. And that fragility comes from protecting yourself from all hardship. Most people remain fragile through believing they can avoid all difficulty if they plan perfectly. Seeing adversity as abnormal rather than universal human experience, taking setbacks personally as if they were singled out for suffering, avoiding all discomfort and challenge, preventing growth, expecting life to be easy and smooth, and being shocked when difficulty appears. Avoiding adversity guarantees fragility. Accepting difficulty enables resilience. Accept reality or stay weak. The acceptance mindset requires understanding that everyone faces adversity regardless of status or success, recognizing that challenges are features, not bugs of existence, seeing difficulty as universal teacher, not personal punishment, accepting that you will face setbacks and pain inevitably, knowing that avoiding adversity guarantees fragility, and understanding resilience requires exposure to what you fear. Research on resilience demonstrates conclusively that resilient people expect adversity and prepare for it mentally. That acceptance reduces suffering more than avoidance does. That fighting against reality of difficulty creates additional suffering. That resilient mindset views challenges as normal, not exceptional. And that people who accept adversity recover faster than those who resist it. The avoidance cost includes never building capacity to handle difficulty, remaining shocked and undone by normal life challenges, wasting energy fighting reality of adversity, staying fragile because you never face what strengthens you, and experiencing worse suffering from avoidance than from difficulty itself. The acceptance practices involve acknowledging that life includes pain and setbacks as normal, preparing mentally for inevitable challenges rather than being blindsided, viewing difficulty when it comes as expected, not exceptional, stopping the question "why me?" and accepting this is life, ceasing the futile attempt to avoid all discomfort, and choosing to face difficulty, knowing it builds strength. The reframe from victim to student means seeing adversity as teacher, not punishment, asking what can I learn from this instead of why is this happening to me, viewing challenges as strength training for mind, accepting difficulty as price of growth, and understanding that avoiding teachers prevents learning. The implementation requires listing areas where you avoid difficulty currently, acknowledging that avoidance keeps you weak, making conscious choice to face rather than flee, preparing mentally for challenges you know will come, practicing acceptance when difficulty appears, and remembering that adversity is normal universal experience. Avoiding adversity guarantees fragility. Accepting difficulty enables resilience. Accept reality or stay weak. You understand now that adversity is inevitable for everyone, that avoiding difficulty keeps you fragile, that acceptance changes your relationship with challenges, that resilience requires facing what you fear, and that step 1 creates foundation by shifting from denial and avoidance to acceptance and engagement, making resilience possible where fragility was guaranteed. Chapter 2. Step 2. Reframe challenges as opportunities for growth, not threats. Reframing challenges as opportunities for growth, rather than threats, fundamentally changes how your brain and body respond to difficulty, enabling resilience. The reframe power demonstrates that brain responds completely differently to opportunity versus threat. That threat triggers fight or flight, undermining performance. That opportunity activates engagement and learning. That same challenge produces different outcomes based purely on how you frame it. And that reframing is not positive thinking but neurological rewiring. The threat versus opportunity response demonstrates threat frame activates amygdala, triggering fear and avoidance. Opportunity frame activates prefrontal cortex, enabling strategic thinking. Threat response floods body with stress hormones, impairing function. Opportunity response channels stress into performance enhancement, and perception determines whether challenge weakens or strengthens you. Threat frame creates fragility. Opportunity frame builds resilience. Reframe challenges or stay broken. Research by Alia Crum on stress mindset demonstrates that people who view stress as enhancing perform better than those viewing it as debilitating. That reframing stress changes physiological response measurably. That mindset about adversity predicts outcomes more than adversity itself. That same stressor produces growth or trauma, depending entirely on frame. And that teaching people to reframe improves resilience dramatically. The growth opportunity frame involves seeing every challenge as chance to build capacity, viewing difficulty as training, making you stronger, asking what strength will this build in me, recognizing that easy path builds nothing, understanding comfort zone is where growth goes to die, and treating obstacles as opportunities, proving and improving capability. The automatic reframing practice means catching yourself in threat frame, noticing fear and avoidance, consciously choosing opportunity frame instead, asking what can I gain from this challenge, focusing on growth potential, not just difficulty, making reframe habitual through repetition, and eventually defaulting to opportunity perception automatically. The language shift includes replacing "this is terrible" with "this is training," changing "why is this happening to me" to "what is this teaching me," shifting from "I cannot handle this" to "this will make me stronger," moving from "this should not be happening" to "this is exactly what I need," and transforming "this is too hard" to "this is the right level of challenge. The physiological benefits show opportunity frame reduces cortisol and increases DHEA. Stress becomes performance enhancing, not debilitating. Heart rate variability improves, indicating better stress response. Immune function maintains better during challenge, and recovery from difficulty happens faster with growth frame. The implementation requires noticing when you default to threat frame, practicing conscious reframe in every difficulty, using specific reframe phrases consistently, focusing on what you will gain through challenge, remembering that growth only comes through difficulty, and making opportunity frame your default response to adversity. Threat frame creates fragility. Opportunity frame builds resilience. Reframe challenges or stay broken. You understand now that perception changes physiological response. That threat frame triggers breakdown while opportunity frame enables growth. That reframing is neurological, not just mental. That same challenge produces different outcomes based on frame. And that step 2 transforms your relationship with difficulty, making challenges strengthen rather than weaken you. Chapter 3. Step 3. Build stress tolerance through progressive exposure to difficulty. Building stress tolerance through progressive exposure to difficulty systematically trains your nervous system to handle adversity without breaking. The stress inoculation principle demonstrates that small doses of stress build immunity to larger stresses, that progressive exposure increases capacity systematically, that avoiding all stress keeps you fragile and reactive, that tolerance builds through repeated exposure at manageable levels, and that nervous system adapts, becoming less reactive over time. The exposure training works like vaccine, where a small, controlled dose of stressor activates adaptation without overwhelming system. Repeated exposure at progressive levels builds tolerance. Nervous system learns. Stressor is not emergency requiring panic. Physiological stress response becomes more regulated and controlled, and capacity increases, enabling handling of bigger challenges. Avoiding stress keeps you fragile. Progressive exposure builds tolerance. Train resilience or stay reactive. Research by Andrew Huberman demonstrates that deliberate stress exposure rewires stress response. That controlled acute stress followed by recovery builds resilience. That chronic avoidance of stress increases reactivity to all stressors. That stress inoculation training used successfully in military and first responders. And that regular exposure to manageable stress decreases baseline anxiety and increases stress tolerance. The progressive exposure protocol involves identifying specific stressor you want to build tolerance for, starting with smallest manageable dose that creates mild discomfort, exposing yourself deliberately and repeatedly to that level, allowing recovery between exposures, progressively increasing intensity only when current level feels manageable, and never jumping levels that would overwhelm system. The stressor categories include physical stress through cold exposure or intense exercise, mental stress through challenging cognitive tasks or public speaking, emotional stress through difficult conversations or vulnerability, time pressure stress through deliberate deadlines, uncertainty stress through trying new, challenging activities, and social stress through putting yourself in uncomfortable situations. The cold exposure example demonstrates protocol starting with 30 seconds cold shower, practicing daily for 1 week, increasing to 1 minute when comfortable, progressively extending duration over weeks, eventually building to several minutes of comfort, and transferring tolerance to other stresses. The recovery importance shows stress exposure must be followed by recovery period. That adaptation happens during recovery, not during stress. That chronic stress without recovery causes breakdown, not building. That progressive exposure includes both stress and rest. And that overtraining through too much, too fast prevents adaptation. The tolerance indicators include same stressor, producing less anxiety over time, recovery happening faster after difficulty, baseline reactivity decreasing to daily stressors, ability to maintain performance under pressure improving, and confidence increasing from proven capacity to handle stress. The implementation requires choosing specific stressor to train tolerance for, designing progressive exposure plans starting very small, committing to regular exposure at scheduled times, tracking tolerance increase over weeks, ensuring adequate recovery between exposures, celebrating adaptation as it occurs, and progressively increasing challenge as capacity builds. Avoiding stress keeps you fragile. Progressive exposure builds tolerance. Train resilience or stay reactive. You understand now that tolerance is trainable capacity, that progressive exposure rewires nervous system, that recovery enables adaptation, that avoidance increases reactivity, and that step 3 systematically builds stress tolerance, making you unbreakable where avoidance keeps you fragile. Chapter 4. Step 4. Develop strong support network. Providing connection during adversity. Developing strong support network that provides genuine connection during adversity is critical. Resilience factor, because humans are social creatures who need connection to weather difficulty. The social support importance demonstrates that isolation during adversity dramatically increases suffering and decreases resilience. That connection with others provides emotional regulation impossible alone. That sharing difficulty reduces its psychological weight measurably. That supportive relationships provide perspective, preventing catastrophizing, and that humans are built to face challenges together, not alone. Research by Robert Waldinger demonstrates conclusively that quality relationships are strongest predictor of resilience through adversity. That people with strong social connections recover from setbacks faster. That isolation during difficulty predicts poor outcomes across all domains. That emotional support reduces physiological stress response, and that sharing problems with trusted others decreases rumination and despair. Isolation during adversity destroys resilience. Connection provides strength. Build support or suffer alone. The support types include emotional support from people who listen without judgment, practical support from those who help with concrete needs, perspective support from mentors who have faced similar challenges, accountability support from people who keep you moving forward. celebration support from those who acknowledge your wins, and identity support from people who remind you who you are beyond current difficulty. The quality over quantity principle means one genuine deep relationship worth more than many superficial connections. Support network does not need to be large to be effective. Depth of trust and vulnerability matters more than number of contacts. Few people who really know you provide more support than many acquaintances, and investing deeply in small number of relationships beats spreading thin across many. The vulnerability requirement shows support requires being honest about struggles, not pretending everything is fine. Asking for help when needed instead of suffering alone. Sharing difficulty rather than hiding it, allowing others to see your challenges, and accepting that needing support is strength, not weakness. The reciprocity importance demonstrates best support networks involve mutual giving and receiving. That being there for others when they struggle builds network. That one-sided relationships eventually fail, that supporting others through adversity strengthens your own resilience, and that giving and receiving support creates strong bonds. The toxic relationship elimination means identifying relationships that drain rather than support, removing people who increase stress during difficulty, avoiding those who judge or minimize struggles, setting boundaries with unsupportive family members, and choosing to spend time with people who build rather than deplete you. The support network building involves identifying who currently supports you genuinely, deepening those relationships through vulnerability and reciprocity, seeking new connections with people facing similar challenges, joining communities aligned with your values and goals, being intentional about who you allow into inner circle, and investing time and energy in relationships that matter. The asking for help practice includes identifying what kind of support you need specifically, reaching out to appropriate person in network, being direct about what would help, accepting support offered gracefully, reciprocating when others need you, and building habit of connection during difficulty, not just after. Isolation during adversity destroys resilience. Connection provides strength. Build support or suffer alone. You understand now that social support is critical resilience factor, that quality relationships predict recovery, that vulnerability enables real support, that reciprocity strengthens bonds, and that step 4 builds network, making adversity survivable, where isolation makes it unbearable. Chapter 5. Step 5. Practice post-adversity reflection, extracting lessons and growth. Practicing systematic post-adversity reflection that extracts lessons and growth, transforms difficulties into resilience, building experiences. The reflection importance demonstrates that adversity without reflection is just suffering, that extracting lessons makes difficulty meaningful and valuable, that reflecting on challenges reveals patterns and solutions, that growth comes from learning not just from experiencing, and that unreflected adversity tends to repeat itself. The post-traumatic growth research demonstrates that many people become stronger after adversity, not just despite it. That growth requires deliberate processing, not just time passing. That reflecting on difficulty can reveal new perspectives and priorities. That adversity can catalyze positive life changes when processed well, and that systematic reflection transforms trauma into growth. Adversity without reflection is wasted suffering. Reflection transforms difficulty into growth. Extract lessons or repeat patterns. The reflection protocol involves waiting until acute stress has passed before deep reflection, setting aside dedicated time to process difficulty, examining what happened objectively, without self-blame, identifying what you learned about yourself, recognizing new capabilities you discovered, extracting specific applicable lessons, determining what you will do differently next time, and acknowledging growth that occurred through challenge. The reflection questions include: what did this difficulty teach me about my capabilities? What strengths did I discover or develop through this challenge? What would I do differently if facing similar adversity again? How am I stronger now than before this difficulty? What limiting beliefs did this challenge disprove about me? What new perspective or priority emerged from this experience? And how can I use what I learned to help others facing similar challenges? The meaning-making process means finding purpose in suffering through lessons extracted, connecting adversity to larger life narrative and growth, seeing how challenge contributed to becoming who you want to be, understanding that difficulty was necessary for specific learning, and creating coherent story where adversity has meaning, not just randomness. The gratitude paradox shows being grateful for growth from difficulty without being glad it happened. appreciating lessons while wishing the teacher had been gentler, acknowledging that you would not choose the adversity but value who you became through it, and finding gratitude for strength built without minimizing pain experienced. The documentation importance involves writing about adversity and lessons learned, creating record you can review during future challenges, building evidence of your resilience over time, having concrete proof you have overcome difficulty before, and using past adversity as fuel for current challenges. The forward application means taking extracted lessons and applying them deliberately, changing behavior based on what difficulty taught, using new perspective to make better decisions, leveraging discovered strengths in new challenges, sharing lessons to help others, and ensuring adversity was not wasted but generated growth. The implementation requires scheduling regular reflection time after difficulties, using consistent reflection questions, writing reflections, not just thinking them, sharing lessons with trusted others, applying learning to current life, building identity as person who grows through adversity, and viewing all challenges as potential teachers when processed well. Adversity without reflection is wasted suffering. Reflection transforms difficulty into growth. Extract lessons or repeat patterns. You understand now that reflection transforms suffering into growth, that lessons extracted make adversity meaningful, that systematic processing enables post-traumatic growth, that documentation builds evidence of resilience, and that step 5 ensures difficulty strengthens rather than just scars you. You have learned 5 steps to become resilient. Step 1. Accept that adversity is inevitable and stop avoiding difficulty. Step 2. Reframe challenges as opportunities for growth, not threats. Step 3. Build stress tolerance through progressive exposure to difficulty. Step 4. Develop strong support network, providing connection during adversity. Step 5. Practice post-adversity, reflection, extracting lessons and growth. What matters now is implementing these 5 steps, starting immediately. Choose step 1 today, accepting adversity as normal. 5 implementation priorities starting tomorrow. Acknowledge 1 difficulty you have been avoiding. Reframe 1 current challenge as growth opportunity. Expose yourself to 1 manageable stressor deliberately. Reach out to 1 person in support network. Reflect on 1 past difficulty, extracting lessons learned. Execute these 5 steps systematically. Build resilience progressively. Embrace adversity as teacher, and develop unbreakable mental toughness. Stop breaking under pressure and start building resilience systematically. Stop being fragile and start becoming unbreakable. Follow these 5 steps. Build capacity progressively. Embrace adversity as training. Execute with discipline daily, and develop resilience, making you stronger from challenges that weakness makes impossible. To overcome through commitment, starting now.